Why, hi there, I'm Ron Juckett, and welcome to the DoDCast. Today, I talk with ESPN's Tim Kurkjian.
Good. Well, thanks for taking the time to spend a few minutes.
Sure.
All right. Well, I was going to ask about the bullpen first, but the Trea Turner injury caught us all by surprise. Do you think at this point they will trade for a shortstop, or will they stick with the combination of Stephen Drew and Wilmer Depot?
Well, I think with the other issues they have in their bullpen, I think they're going to have to keep every trade chip available to go get a closer. So I think they're going to stay with what they have at shortstop unless they can find an inexpensive way to fill that hole, because again, they have a bigger need right now than filling shortstop, even though Trea Turner is a dynamic offensive player, did a nice job defensively. He really started to hit here, and it's just such a shame to see such a good young player get hurt. Not the first one this year, way too many injuries these days, and this one is really going to hurt the Nationals, even though they have a great offensive team. If anyone could withstand this, it's the Nationals, but that guy is absolutely dynamite at the top of that order.
Reporters, James, I had just done a nice profile piece on him yesterday.
Yeah, that's always how it works. You talk somebody up and he gets hurt the next day. It's really a shame.
It really is. So like someone like Zach Cozart or Jed Lowry are not happening.
I don't think Zach Cozart is happening because he's going to be the starting shortstop in the All-Star game. The Reds need so much help with their pitching staff that they're going to want one, two, maybe more top prospects from the Nationals. And even though I like Zach Cozart a lot, I don't think you should overpay to get him when you're going to get Trea Turner back at some point, obviously. And so, again, I would take all of those chips on a shortstop and make sure you get the closer that you need.
Right. Which leads us to the next question is, where do you think they get that closer?
Well, that's a good question. Maybe they go to Cincinnati and say, we want your closer, Raisel Iglesias, instead of your shortstop, Zach Cozart. Maybe they go back to the White Sox and see if they can get David Robertson, even though I'm sure they've tried on that one several times. I thought Kelvin Herrera might be a possibility with the Royals, but they're back in this thing, as is almost everyone else in the American League at the moment. So I think he's going to stay with the Royals. And I've talked to Mike Rizzo about this. This is not an easy situation for him. And he's checked, and the elite closers are essentially taken right now for obvious reasons. So as important as it is to get a closer, it's not that easy to get one, no matter what.
Well, they've courted David Robertson for a long time, and of course they apparently had a deal last year to get him that was nixed by ownership. I mean, is this the number one guy they get? Is it going to be Colomé from Tampa?
Well, again, this is what Mike Rizzo works on every day. And the last time I talked to him about this, it was a couple of weeks ago, but he kind of laughed and said, if you got any good ideas, let me know. Joking, of course. But Colomé with the Rays makes some sense, but the Rays are in the playoff race.
Right.
They have a chance to win the division. They have a chance to win the wild card. And this is, I'm not sure the right word is the problem, but this is the problem in the American League right now, is it's so ordinary that teams that are 500 and slightly below feel like they have a chance. And therefore, I think that might cut down on teams selling players, and that's going to hurt the Nationals' pursuit of a closer.
What about San Diego's Brad Hand? He's not necessarily a closer, but a very good bullpen piece.
Yeah, he's had a great year, too. If Will Myers doesn't make the All-Star team from the Padres, Brad Hand should. He's certainly a guy to keep an eye on, and that's a possibility. And maybe they're just going to have to go find an eighth-inning guy for somebody. And I don't even have one of those guys in mind, but maybe they have to just go get somebody who's really pitching lights out for a non-contender, and he's pitching the 8th inning instead of the 9th, because, again, finding a closer this time of year is really hard. And they worked so hard at getting one in the offseason, and Kenley Jansen took less money to go back to the Dodgers, and Mark Melancon took similar money to go to the Giants, because the way the contract was structured made much more sense for Melancon to sign there. So the Nationals have tried at this, but trying isn't good enough, not when you've been stung by bullpen issues in the postseason a couple times already.
Yeah, and the other issue is the team's about to go over the competitive balance tax. Is that something that the Lerner family will do if they think they can win this year?
Well, that's a good question. I'm sure it's not something they would prefer to do, obviously. And since they're a bottom line ownership group, I would say they're going to be real cautious with that. But they also know that, I think they know now, that when you get a chance to win, you have to take it in the big leagues today. And you have to take a chance. You have to overpay. You have to spend more than you wanted to. Because winning in the postseason, winning the World Series changes everything for an organization. And maybe they'll look at it and say, if so-and-so is the final piece and we can get over the hump here, win the World Series, we're going to make all of that money back that we paid to go over the tax.
Right. You're also part of ESPN's coverage of the All-Star Selection Special, which is Sunday night at 7 o'clock, brought to you by Esurance. Along with the obvious Nationals All-Stars, do you think that Anthony Rendon and Gio Gonzalez make the team?
I've got Anthony Rendon on the All-Star team, and that was not an easy decision picking any of those NL All-Stars because it's so competitive, especially at third base and other places. So I had Rendon on the All-Star team. I did not have Gio Gonzalez on the All-Star team, not because he doesn't deserve it, but because I just ran out of room. I only had 32 spots, and I really feel for the managers and the people who have to put together these All-Star teams, because it is really hard to do when you sit down and have to take a player from each team, and you got to have a backup catcher and everything else. It's really, really difficult to sign.
Yeah, I don't envy Joe Madden at all when it comes to that. Because we're in the Sunday night game this week against the Cardinals at 8 on ESPN. For fans who haven't caught St. Louis yet, why are they struggling this year?
Well, they're having a really hard time scoring runs. They just don't have that bopper, that banger in the middle of the order, no Matt Holliday, and obviously now for years, no Albert Pujols. And they just haven't found the production that they need from their corners or their corner outfielders, and Dexter Fowler's hurt, and he hasn't been the leadoff guy that they were hoping he would be. So you take this offense that has been disappointing and you put it on top of a bullpen that has been disappointing, and that's why they're several games under 500. But again, in a winnable division at this point, they still have a chance. So you can't count them out, and therefore I don't think they can be sellers. I think they have to be buyers also, but they're going to have to buy the best hitter possible if they're going to get themselves back into this thing.
Absolutely. And there is no altitude in that division. One of the great stories this year is Ryan Zimmerman. What are you seeing different with him this year?
Well, to me, it's fairly obvious. It's just health with him. He has not been healthy for several years. So increased and improved health is number one, but he's also, according to Dusty Baker, he has stopped chasing that pitch up in the strike zone, which is extremely important. As Dusty told me, he told Zimmerman, look, you can chase low in the zone, you can chase up in the zone, but you can't chase them both. So he said, look, you're a really good low ball hitter. So if you're going to go out of the strike zone a little bit, get it down in the strike zone, but don't go up in the strike zone. That's when you get yourself in trouble. So that combined with improved health is the biggest reason that Zimmerman is a much better player than he was last year or in recent years.
Yeah, yep. Gotta ask this. Where do you think Bryce Harper is going to be in 2 years?
Well, A lot has to happen. A lot's going to happen in between those 2 years. And at this point, the honest answer is I don't know where he's going to be. The Yankees seem to make some sense. A big market seems to make some sense, but I'm not counting the Nationals out of this. Let's say they win the World Series this year or next year. Let's say he has another MVP year this year or next year. Let's say he looks around and the money from the Nationals is just as good as anywhere else, and he looks at it and says, I have a chance to be the best player, hitter, that this franchise or Washington baseball maybe has ever had, as opposed to going to the Yankees where you'd have to stand in line with a bunch of great all-time players. Maybe he ends up staying with the Nationals. I don't know. It's just way too premature to figure out where he's going to be when we still have a full season and a half of production to go. We just have to see how he does and what the market does.
It's a favorite guessing game for our readers, that's for sure. Last question. Got to put you on the spot. How far can this team go, and where do they finish this year?
Well, they're going to win the East. That's fairly obvious.
Right.
After that, it's just too hard to make a guess. I think my guess is they're going to get to October, and they're going to be the second best team entering the playoffs behind the Dodgers. Mm-hmm. And I think the Cubs will be in the playoffs. I think the Rockies will, and I think the Diamondbacks will. And I think all five of those teams has a chance to do something special in the postseason. Because that's the way the postseason works in baseball. So I'm going to say the Nationals definitely win the division. They're going to be really good on October 1st. But I got to know what they're going to do at the back end of the bullpen before I can make a final determination. And that's what this next month is all about for Mike Rizzo and the Nationals.
Absolutely. Hey, Tim Kurkjian, thanks for being with us.
All right, my pleasure. Thank you.
All right.
I'd like to thank Tim Kurkjian from ESPN for joining me today to talk about the Nats, the All-Star Game, and the St. Louis Cardinals. You can see Tim and the rest of the Baseball Tonight team Sunday at 6 for a countdown to Baseball Tonight, at 7 for the Esurance All-Star Team Selection Show, and at 8 o'clock you can join Dan Schulman, Jessica Mendoza, and Aaron Boone for Sunday Night Baseball, the Washington Nationals and the St. Louis Cardinals from Busch Stadium.